Student at LROC at Arizona State University, and he will be talking to us about the comparison of large and mid-sized lunar crater distributions.
Yes, thank you. So we've been looking at global lunar craters 5 to 20 kilometers in diameter and comparing the distribution of those craters to craters greater than 20 kilometers in diameter. So the global distribution of larger lunar craters greater than 20 kilometers in diameter was analyzed by Head et al. Using a 5,185 crater data set digitized by Kadish et al. Using LOLA data, I believe. Current work at LROC seeks to extend the global distribution analysis to craters 5 to 20 kilometers in diameter using a 22,746 crater data set that I digitized. Just like the Kadish et al. Data set, ours is comprehensive. It covers the entire lunar surface. And the ultimate goal of this work is to compare the two data sets specifically in terms of aerial crater density. Next slide. So in revealing areas that exhibit aerial crater density differences between the larger craters and mid-sized craters, we may further investigate the geologic processes responsible for such differences. Processes such as resurfacing events or perhaps excess secondaries. We also enable age dating using craters down to 5 kilometers in diameter, as well as create a database for future stratigraphic studies, whatever those might be. So in order to create aerial crater density maps for comparison, we used ArcGIS, and in particular, the point density tool within it. The tool works using the moving neighborhood method, in which a circular search region is drawn around an output cell. And within that circular search region are any number of craters. The tool works by counting the number of craters, dividing by the area of the circular search region, and attributing that crater density magnitude in units of craters per square kilometer to that individual output cell. And then the process repeats itself for the adjacent output cell until the entire global output raster is complete. Here's a little cartoon showing what I just explained. It's just a drawing, it's not actually the moon. As you can see, there's a circular search region of the user-specified radius, and at its center is an output cell of user-specified size, and within that search radius are any number of craters, point features, in our case, crater centers, and the tool will count those number of craters and divide by the area. Next slide. Varying the output cell size has an effect on the appearance of the resulting output raster and to some extent the density magnitudes themselves. Here we're looking at the same section of a global crater density map. Of course, this is zoomed in. The warmer colors in this map indicate regions of higher crater density, and the cooler colors indicate regions of lower crater density. And we varied the output cell size from 10 by 10 kilometers to 5 by 5 kilometers. And the 10 by 10 kilometer cell size, as you can see, retains large-scale variations in crater density quite well, but it loses some information, some detail at the finer scales that the 5 by 5 kilometer output cell size retains. However, when you're looking at a global crater density map, varying the two output cell sizes has very little effect, and you wouldn't even really notice the difference. And for those of you viewing this on a large screen or perhaps a lower resolution monitor, you might not even be able to tell the difference between these two images, and that's kind of the point. At the global scale, the differences are essentially indistinguishable. Next slide. Varying the search radius, however, has a profound effect on both the appearance of the resulting output raster and the density magnitudes themselves, obviously. Here we're looking at 4 global crater density maps using the 5 to 20 kilometer crater data set that we digitized. Once again, the warmer colors in this map are regions of higher crater density, and the cooler colors are regions of lower crater density. Each map utilizes an output cell size of 10 by 10 kilometers, and we varied the search radius for each one from 400 down to 50 kilometers. As you can see, the larger radii retain the regional to global variations in crater density quite well, and as you decrease the search radius, you emphasize the local variations in crater density. At a certain point, if your search radius is too small, you're not sampling enough point features or craters, and your results become statistically insignificant. So we opted for a larger search radius to emphasize global variations. Next slide. And here's our final output. This is an aerial crater density map using the 5 to 20 kilometer crater data set, a search radius of 500 kilometers, and an output cell size of 15 by 15 kilometers. Once again, the warmer colors indicate higher crater density of craters in this size range, and the cooler colors indicate lower crater density in units of craters per square kilometer, normalized to 1,000,000 square kilometers. And this map shows what we would expect, that in and around Mare and Oriental, we see a relatively low crater density of craters of the size range. And in the highlands, particularly the far side northern highlands, we see warmer colors or regions of higher crater density. Next slide. Here's an aerial crater density map using the greater than 20 kilometer crater data set produced by Kadish et al. And Head et al. This is very similar to the aerial crater density map published in the Head et al. Work. We reproduced it for this study. And here again we see some similar trends in and around the Mare and Oriental, and over in the far northern highlands on the far side. One particular difference here is a warmer area, a hotspot, if you will, in the southern highlands extending out towards Mare Austral, that, if we switch back one slide, is not present in the 5 to 20 kilometer map, among other differences globally. Next slide. So in order to compare the two data sets directly, we reclassified the density values of each map into 10 equal interval bins, and then assigned each of those bins a value of 1 to 10, 1 being lowest density and 10 being the highest. And then using ArcGIS, simply did an output raster subtraction, subtracting the reclassified 5 to 20 kilometer map from the reclassified greater than 20 kilometer map. Produce an aerial crater density difference map. And note that the resulting difference values of this map are unitless. We're just subtracting the bin numbers, not the density magnitudes themselves directly. And here's the resulting output map. This is the relative aerial crater density difference map. And one thing that'll stand out right away is that the color scheme is very similar to the previous two aerial crater density maps. In this case, the colors signify something rather different. The warmer colors extending up to the darker red indicate regions that have an overabundance or an excess of greater than 20 kilometer craters relative to 5 to 20 kilometer craters. And the blue areas, the cooler colors, going down into the negative crater density difference values, indicate the opposite. Regions with an excess of 5 to 20 kilometer craters relative to the greater than 20 kilometer craters. Next slide. So you notice the positive density difference value, the red spot in the previous map. This is an orthographic view of the same crater density difference map focused on the Hamel-Manzinus area that shows a region with an excess of greater than 20 kilometer craters relative to 5 to 20 kilometer craters. And further work will seek to constrain the mechanisms by which this has occurred, but this may be indicative of resurfacing events or perhaps poor crater retention, which has affected the smaller crater sizes. Here's an example, or a couple examples of the opposite. Here we're seeing a negative crater density difference value, or region, around Mare Moscoviense. And this may indicate an overabundance of secondaries, of unrecognized secondaries in this area, in and around this area, I should say. Secondaries that couldn't be classified as such directly because they aren't in typical clusters or fields or herringbone patterns. This is discussed in more detail by McEwen and Bierhaus. And at the bottom of the screen we see another example of a area showing higher than 20 kilometer crater density relative to the 5 to 20 kilometer. Next slide. So in review, in regards to areas with a significant deficit of 5 to 20 kilometer craters, resurfacing events or reduced crater retention due to topographic, regolith, and or target property effects may be responsible. In areas with significant excess of 5 to 20 kilometer craters, randomly distributed secondaries may be responsible, such as in the case of Mare Moscovians. And as I mentioned, future work will focus on constraining the exact mechanisms by which these relative crater density differences have occurred. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Fantastic talk. Simone Marchi asks, is there a way to define the best radius for binning the craters?
We focused on the global scale, so we wanted a larger radius. I can get you a better answer on exactly how to bin the craters for the best radius, if we want to chat afterwards.
Okay, I think there are a few others typing chats in, or typing some questions in. We have a couple of minutes, so we can wait for those. I was curious, do you have plans to go through some of your other areas of high counts of 5 to 20 kilometer craters and check them out specifically for evidence of secondaries? I know you did that in Moscoviansi, but do you have plans to do that in some of the other areas that you were seeing high counts?
Yeah, our future work will focus on constraining those particular areas and looking at that in more detail.
Okay. I think folks are still typing in, but if you wouldn't mind just staying online and answering those over in the general chat, that would be great. And